Okay. Hi everybody. It is Raythe here. I am starting the stream pretty early and no one's not even on yet, but for those of you who are listening to this recorded, I just wanted to let you know what we're doing today so that you've picked the right live video, which is this is going to be a recording of chapters 9 and 10 of my gay sci-fi romance Empire of Stars. So there's going to be two chapters today. I'm going to break it up into a few pieces because to give my voice a rest, I try to do all the acting out loud. Melissa says, Hi, Raythe. Hi, Melissa. Good to see you. People are starting to pop on. This is nice. So today we're going to answer questions and we're going to do our readings. With things getting beautiful outside for many of us, I hope people will still come in and see these and listen to these. We're still shut down here in Illinois, really till the end of the month, but I am going to be shut down until there's pretty much a vaccine. So for me, this is a lot of fun to see you guys. Okay, people are coming in. Which is good. We're not going to start until a little after 2 with the official reading so that everyone gets a chance to get settled in, get your drinks, your snacks, your questions. Keith says hello from a fellow writer. Hello, Keith. Nice to see you on. Good to see you on. Just so you know, please feel free to ask questions at any time. Even when I'm doing the reading, I won't acknowledge them while I'm reading, but I will, during my breaks, I will come back and I will look at what you've said and answer questions the best you have. It doesn't just have to be about Empire of Stars. It can be about anything to do with the site, with me, and all this kind of good stuff. Sophie says hello. Crystal says, hello, how have you been? I was so looking forward to this weekend. It is amazing. I literally have not had a day off since the pandemic began. um, so it's in this week. You would think that I got all this stuff done, so I'll have some free time. No, no. Lo says, hi everybody. Hi Lo. It's so good to see you. Ooh, the stalking cat has come out of the bedroom. It is Mew. She may join us later. You'll probably hear her. Keith says, I wanted to do this also with my work too. Thanks for this. Oh, yeah, it's really easy, Keith. Seriously, I thought it was going to be incredibly complicated, but you just do basically you hit a button, hit a few other buttons, and we're all good. So Claude says, bonjour. Everybody all right? I'm definitely all right here. Glad to see you guys. Just as a reminder to those of you who are coming on, we will be doing chapters 9 and 10 of Empire of Stars today. I'm very excited. I think of those two as very action packed, and then chapter 11 is like a lot of reveals. Megan says, hi. Hi, Megan. Crystal says, doing great here. Good. I like to hear it. Sophie says, oh, everyone is not equal during lockdown, I guess. I basically got 2 months of paid holidays. It was great for me. No, my day job has been really brilliant, but honestly, I was already working from home 3 days a week, so just adding two more into the mix is not that big of a deal. So work hasn't slowed down at all. And then for the site, I'm doing more for the site because that brings me joy. Um, but one thing I will be doing is I'm only going to be doing recordings of Empire of Stars. So you'll see that in June's calendar, you will see those days where there is a Dragon's Reign podcast going up. There will be no live reading, I'm afraid. I just need a little bit of time off to refresh. Although honestly, I'll probably be using that to write. Uh, Shoei, show. If I'm saying this wrong, I'm so bad. I'm so sorry. Hi everybody. Hello. Carolyn says hello. I am so excited. I really am looking forward all week to your reading. Thank you. I was looking forward to it too. Carolyn says she's got her popcorn and soda at the ready. Excellent. Excellent. Alex says, I'm here, excited for little blue men. Absolutely, except they're little Well, they're big blue men, very very big, very very big. That's gonna come up. So I'm excited to do these 2 chapters. So excited. But we're not going to start until a little bit after 2 with that. What are, wherever you're living, if it's coming summer for you, is everybody going to stop? I don't want to say stop social distancing, but are you looking forward to anything like going to the beach or something like that? Is there something that you have planned? I personally was supposed to be on a cruise ship today, which are like cruise ships of death. We were supposed to be going to the Bahamas. Actually, it was going to be my first vacation in a few years, and yeah, clearly not doing that. It's weird because I still think about it. I still think about it. Sophie says, "How big is the blue man exactly?" Well, we're going to talk about that at some point. Like I said, we will be having a blog post regarding alien genitalia because that is definitely necessary. And we're also going to be having a blog post where you guys make up an alien, and we look at it, and I try to going to try to incorporate as many of those as I can. Some of them might be on the crew. I don't know. We don't know yet. I never know, Like, for example, Sammy, I had no idea she was going to be in Empire of Stars, which is really weird because she sort of, I realized, I'm like, Jace has to have some friends. Then there she was with Georgie, and it was really awesome. And I really love those 2 characters. Um, I know that at least one member is concerned about the parents, but I don't think they have to be because the parents are really cool. Alex says we need copious details. Yeah, I think we all do need copious details about alien genitalia, but we've got to have it be somewhat interesting, but then nothing sort of too gross. We don't want it gross. I will never forget Stephen King's Tommyknockers. If you guys don't know, this is a book where people basically are turned into aliens. And he just has a description of some alien genitalia, like a person's genitalia changing from a human genitalia to alien. And I would never, oh, that was Mew, by the way, never, ever, ever forgotten that. And I thought, my God, man, my God. Um, Sophie says, the lockdown is over in France, but I have no plans of going anywhere. I just like being home. The thing I like to do the most is conventions, but they've all been canceled till October at least. Yeah, yeah. We have a ton of festivals, and I'm sure you do too over in France, that we normally have, which are art and music and wine and food. Chicago is notorious for having them. Like every little area, it's like the Italian Village does things. It's just amazing, and none of them are happening. None of them, and I wouldn't feel safe going anyways. I went to my bakery today to pick up some things. They were making homemade pizza dough, and I was like, I'm getting that. And literally, I think there were like 10 people there, and I like flinched and sort of like backed away slowly. And I was like, wow, that's definitely different. Pam says, hello. Hello, Pam. Carolyn says, I moved the money for my cruise to a vacation account for later and upgrades. Sorry about your trip. Thank you, Carolyn. I know everybody's lost something. I mean, everybody. And that to me, this is, not compared to what other people have lost. Losing a cruise is like no big deal. I was just really looking forward to it. And I guess we all should be able to mourn what we've lost. I asked for the money back instead of asking for an upgrade because I think a lot of you know this, but I am diabetic and I do not know, to be honest with you, if they're going to let diabetics cruise anymore. I know that there was some health requirements, and it was a lot of money. So I'm taking that back, and we'll see what happens. Eventually, I do want to cruise again. But another thing that we're thinking about, if it becomes possible, is going to a neighboring state, which I'm sure the other states are like, no, like Wisconsin or Michigan. They have beautiful like lake homes that you can rent, and like just basically the idea is we have a home, a few friends that are good in terms of their quarantining and being safe, and we would swim, and we would have barbecues, and we would have fire pit, and basically just make elaborate dinners for no special reason and all this kind of stuff. So Carolyn, where were you going on your cruise? If you don't mind saying, because I was going to Bahamas. Um, yeah. So anyway, it's just weird to think that today I would have been on the ship. Um, yeah. Anyway, it's just a little weird. It's just a little weird. Lo says, "Wah, I wasn't getting any sound until I reloaded the page. I was only seeing the comments. I'm so glad that you're now seeing about it, seeing it, hearing us." Crystal says, "Sorry about yours. My husband and I took a cruise from end of February to early March. It was one of the last ones before they closed the port of Miami. Thank God you got back in. That was crazy when they weren't allowing the ships to dock. I mean, they still aren't, but at least the people are off, except for, of course, the crew, which that's awful. So I'm glad you got back." Keith says, "I haven't read much of your work. You saw this advertisement on Facebook. The thing that caught my eye was gay fiction and romance. I'm a gay man myself." Well, awesome, Keith. I'm so glad you're here. You can actually read the entirety of Empire of Stars so far. We're keeping this one open so that people can basically read along. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people have had a lot of hardship, and just tightening the belt and entertainment is like not something that they have the money for. So I'm going to put the link in a comment so you can find it. You're going to reply. There we go. And I'm just going to reply, and so you can see it. Okay. All right. Wait, I missed some comments. All right. So Sophie says the barbecue and stuff sound awesome. Yeah, it's my favorite thing to do, really, is to basically, you know, uh, talk with people, drink wine, and eat good food. So, and watch good movies and read good books and that sort of thing. Carolyn says London. Oh my God. That sounds amazing. My best friend, he really wants to do the QE2. That's the cruise that goes, the transatlantic one. So Marina says, "I can't be here this time. I have work." Wah, someone popped the popcorn for me. Well, you can listen to this later, Marina, because it will be on the page. So, Shoy. Okay, laugh out loud. It's Shoy, like how you pronounce boy. I'm in Barbados, and our crop over festival has been canceled. Oh, and it's a big summer festival and takes place between July and August. We have lots of parties and cruises and big masquerades that we call Catamount, and it's all canceled. It's a big blow for our economy. Yeah, it would be huge because I'm sure you get so many tourists, not to mention like everybody taking the time off and buying things and just being around. That's just, ugh. I know that, it has to happen, and hopefully next year we'll be back. So Sophie says, "Welcome, Keith." And Shoy says, "This is my first live reading. I keep missing them, so I'm excited for this. I've read all the chapters except the last one. So I'm in a good place for this reading. Excellent. I will try not to give away spoilers, although everybody knows that I suck at that. So I apologize." Pam says, "Welcome, Keith." So Keith's getting a warm welcome, which is what Wraith Rainers do. Those who I really found that. So very exciting. Let me start getting the chapters up. For most of you are members. But yes, thank you for your support for Dragon's Reign. The delay. Still not 100% satisfied with any of those chapters, but that's just how that sometimes goes. I wanted them to be perfect, and I don't know. Sometimes they're just not perfect. Nothing's perfect. So just in case you all are wondering, if you hear a cat mew in the background, her name is Mew. She is a black and white American short hair with a pink nose. She is often called the pink nose of doom. I am actually going to let her out on the balcony because that is where she wants to be. And hopefully there will not be a lot about, hold on, guys, I need to open the balcony door to let her back in, because if I leave it open, there's too much noise for our reading. So hold on one second. Let me just go let her in. Well, let her out, rather. Yes, you want to be out there. Yes. So it's adorable. Mew has basically taken over the two comfortable seats out on my balcony. I live in a condo, and she just loves to lull out there. So Kelly says, Raythe, I have been a subscriber for a year, but I know you're writing from when you were on fanfiction.net. I love this story. This is the best so far. Oh my gosh, yes. Do you know, I started writing Inuyasha fan fiction. And it was because it was the first time that I had seen, gay fiction. I know that sounds stupid, but I mean, just like the stuff that I thought about. And so I started doing that. And then I did Smallville. I never watched Smallville except for like just looked at images, but I read all the Smallville fanfic and I loved it. And then, of course, I finally did Star Wars, which is where a lot of people knew me. Even though I did weird stuff, I always do weird stuff. And then Star Trek. Pam says, I think you did a great job. She's referring to Dragon's Reign. Thank you. I felt like I was unable in that first chapter to really. It was an interview, just so people know what we're talking about. It was like basically the press interviewing the White Dragon Shifter, and it was sort of like everybody who knows how interviews are done was like, well, no, you didn't really start with like the basic questions. And I'm like, you're right, I didn't. Because, and the reason was, in all honesty, is I wanted to be interesting, of course, for you guys, for the readers, and you already know all that. Hearing Caden basically like parrot what you already know. I would just take up too much room, but at the same time, it was sort of like, I don't know, like trying to make it work, like like that mask the tough questions and then mask the dragon babies questions was sort of hard. But thank you, Pam. Crystal says, we were supposed to be going to Wingding, the GWRRA's big annual motorcycle rally, June 29th to July 3rd. It was scheduled for Springfield, Missouri this year, but it's canceled too. Oh my God. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, my one of my brothers had a motorcycle and I loved riding with him, although we were not safe. Like helmets, what were helmets? But I felt like you feel like you're flying, and motorcycles are so beautiful. Kate says, "Hey, my dear. Hey, back at you, Kate." Melissa says, I was supposed to be going to Cyprus. Oh my God. For my brother's wedding and going for a hen weekend bachelorette for my sister in law to be. That all had to be canceled till next year now. Oh my goodness. I feel for people who had weddings planned, who had that kind of stuff that just, you just can't have it. I had to go to one Zoom funeral. Yes, it was someone who died of COVID, and that was really awful. Um, so Sophie says, I've never read your Inuyasha fan fiction. You probably shouldn't because it's terrible. Sophie, and I love you to death. I know there's some big thing about what, like Sashomu actually having sex with someone and having babies. Like he has girls or something. I'm not following up on that anymore. I sort of fell out of love with it. Crystal says, oh, Melissa, that's so sad. I agree. I agree. Sophie says, your Star Wars fanfic was awesome to this day. My Legos, Anakin and Luke, are still cuddling together on my shelf because this fic made me ship them so much. Yeah. For those who do not know, I did Anakin and Luke. So that was father, son, and it was an interesting thing. And I still ship them in my head. I still have like, I listen to music and I will literally make up stories about them. I have these elaborate stuff. Some of the stuff from my mental movies from Star Wars is actually incorporated in Empire of Stars. Namely, that you'll find out about some of the monsters are from there. I had a really good idea for a Luke Vader story with this. So Olivia says, I just made it. Yeah, don't worry. We're not starting for a little while. We're going to get people to get settled in. Lurleen says, hope I don't have to leave abruptly. Looking forward to the reading. I'm looking forward to, you being here as well. Keith says, did you have a lot of support from your family and friends in your line of work? Was there criticism going on? I was uniquely lucky. My mother, and a lot of people know this about my mom, um, honestly read some of my gay fiction that I was writing at age 12. And the fact that I would share it with her was one thing. And it was also this incesty fiction too. She actually supported me completely and said, just let people know it's not real. It's not happening. But she has always been my biggest fan. She's always said that I've been telling her stories since I could talk and writing them down since I could write. And she's always been very supportive. Everybody in my family knows what I do. Did I get a little ribbing? Yeah, because it was more romance than it was gay romance. To be honest with you, they didn't. They're like, oh, it's a romance thing. But they have always been very supportive, and all my friends know, all my family knows from the beginning. And to have been doing this for 10 years, to be honest with you, just shows anyone who had any doubts about it being like something that it wasn't just me. Because I think for a long time, I thought I was some kind of freak, that I liked this stuff. And being a bisexual woman and liking to write gay male was seen as very bizarre. But it's not. It's really not. We have a lot of straight women, gay men, bi women, everyone really, even straight men read it because there's a lot of action adventure, and the guys just the main characters just happen to be gay. Um, Kelly asked, the Star Trek one she did is still in the favorites list, and where the writing drew me in was a bit sad, never finished. Wanted to see more. Kelly, I know, and I actually, oh my god, I enjoyed that, although it was really off character, but I enjoyed it thoroughly. And I'm trying to get a little bit of that in the Kirk and Spock stuff in with our characters in Jace and oh my god, I'm blanking on my character's name. Oh my god. Anyway, the two of them are the two characters, and the cat wants to come in. Okay, this is going to be a problem. In out, in out. It's hysterical. Kitty, hey cat. Mew to you. Keith says, I'm asking because I'm writing a supernatural short story. Our novel can't decide yet, and my story is so controversial involving voodoo. Well, you know, Keith, I think you need to write what's in your head. Um, Sometimes, I've written a lot of controversial things. And if it's something, if it's, you just got to get it down. Don't allow your inner editor to get in the way. Write it. I'm not saying publish it, notice. If you really feel that it's not something that you can publish, and this is almost hysterical. I wish you guys could see the cat. She's pressing her paws to the glass. Let me let her in. But I'm not saying publish it, but I am saying write it. Put it down because it might not, maybe you can publish it or maybe you can't. It's up to you. Okay, maybe you come in. Yeah, well, if you're going to be like that, you're not going out. Sorry, guys. I am not. I'm not letting her out now. um. So Tara says, "Hi, Raythe." Hi, Tara. Sophie is replying to Keith, says, write your story. If you like it, other people will like it too. That's very true. I think Wraith Rain is a testament to the fact that stuff that maybe would never be mainstream at all has a really solid fan base. And sharing your stories with other people is the absolute best thing you can do as a writer. It's just wonderful. Alex says, been devouring The Abyss. The character dynamics are amazing and the plot is riveting. I just have to recommend it. Thank you, Alec. The Abyss went through three variations. Early in my early days, I was an idiot. I stopped in midstream and would literally start it again. Sheila says, finally, had tech difficulties, but I'm here. It's so good to see you. Um, Melissa replied to Crystal, we haven't lost any of the money. We just have to carry on paying the next rest next year, so it isn't too bad. Yeah. I totally hear you. We're for my cruise refund, It's like 90 days. So it's like, yeah, hopefully it'll come. Kate says, bravo you. Oh, thank you. So Claude says, I started my first manga, but I don't feel I can share with close people in real life because it's a Shotokan. That doesn't make me more of a pedophile than writing murder stories, but I'm afraid they wouldn't see me the same way. Yeah, that is something that I mean, when I write incest. I am telling you, I've had interesting um everyone I know knows I write it. And weirdly, they've been fine with it, which shows they might see I'm a little strange anyway, or they just know me so well that they understand that this is not real life. This is a fantasy. But there is also this aspect of it where there's just some things that hit those buttons that just people are like never. And I've had several people unsubscribe when they realized that I wrote incest, and it was really weird because they were reading the Earl King, and it's labeled as such. But we gave them their money back, wished them well, and weirdly enough, then they came back again and signed up again, and then only to abuse me some more. I don't know why. I was like, I tried to tell them that, a lot of people think just gay romance is sick and disgusting, and you're a sick, disgusting weirdo if you read it. And so, really, it's not really yucking your yum, but like judging other people's kinks, so long as it's being done, on the page, it's in your imagination. It's really not. I I put it this way. I get it. Some people just find this so disgusting they just can't deal with it. But at the same time, it's sort of like, okay, a lot of us like things that somebody else would feel that same way about. And trying to shame me about it is not going to work. So, but I get you. It makes it very difficult. Janelle says The Abyss is one of my favorite ones. Thank you. A lot of people like The Abyss, and yet I think of it as I love it too, but it's so problematic, and the fact that I just feel like the story got away from me. There's a couple ones like that always just bother me because I want to like rewrite it. Hannah says, haha, I was thinking cat, the person, wanted in and out as an in and out of the live stream, not an actual cat. Yes. No, no, no. Well, cat 2 wants in and out of the live stream, I'm sure. But no, it's Mew, my actual pet. Shaylina says, I blame you, Raythe, for my lack of sleep today. Stayed up until 2 this morning reading the Elven King's Blade when I had to be up at 7:15 for work. Oh, that's harsh. I was actually up till 2 in the morning, um, playing Elder Scrolls Online because I finally am just taking a little time for myself now that the Vampires Club is done and up. And I hope you all are enjoying that. And those of you who are members, when we had it, you got downloaded your copy. I'm going to be asking you to please write genuine reviews when you get a moment. Tara says, I love the fell. Thank you. I do too. But I understand that other people don't. I get it. Although I do find it funny, that person who signed up twice. Oh, and abused me both times. So it was, I don't know. It's like, how did you not remember? It's Wraith Rain is very particular. It's not like John Smith's gay fiction. So Kat says my internet is always dodgy on Saturdays, and she says so I may have to go in and out of the live stream. Damn you, Kat. Janelle says, will we ever see more of Icar? He was actually my favorite Abyss character. And this is something that really, I think, shows the strength of serial writing, but also its weakness. Icar was the original villain. And then I was writing him, and suddenly he wasn't a villain anymore. And it was like suddenly there was another villain, and another villain after that, and all this kind of stuff, and some interesting things. So will we ever see more of him? I really want to write a sort of like a total remix where Anarian and Abaddon meet each other in the Starn. Well, Abaddon is still the leader, but Anarian doesn't know. And it's like I have an idea for that. So Icar would definitely be in that one. Crystal says, I just finished Vampires Club yesterday. It was so good. Oh my God, thank you. I had a problem when I was writing this where I missed the arc for for one of the characters. And I literally did not have Lucas's arc. And I couldn't figure out what the hell was wrong. And I'm like 2 weeks out, 2.5, 3 weeks out from this thing having to be posted. And I'm like, holy crap, I'm not going to make the date. And then all of a sudden, I figured it out. And I literally was writing 10,000 words a day. It was insane. So I really hoped that people liked it because I felt like it got to the point where it needed to be, but it got there at the very end. Claude says, I adore the Fell 2 and Everdark. Thank you, Claude. Tara says, I want more of Ghost Neo Tokyo. Yes, I've been actually thinking about that. I am definitely, I have some ideas there. Pam says, that sounds interesting. I think that's about the Astaran thing. Janelle says, yes, that may be about the Astaran as well. Okay, so we're at 212, you guys. I've been bloviating long enough. So just to remind everybody, Alex says, just for the first of Icar, and he appears to be so very evil that he sickens me. And oh my God, I just spoiled something again. I'm sorry, Alec. I'm so sorry. Yes, he does. He does. Janelle says, I totally love the idea of more Abyss. Yes, I think so too. I definitely, the vampires in space thing is so unique and so much fun. I definitely think so. All right, now we're going to go into the live reading. So just to remind everybody of how this works, I am going to read chapters 9 and 10 of EOS rather, and I will probably break them at least into 2 parts each, if not 3. You can ask questions or whatever while I'm reading. I just won't obviously be, reading them and responding to them during the reading. During the breaks, I will. I always love to hear what people think and what your thoughts are about what's going to happen in the future of the story, because it helps me. Why this is very useful in terms of what this expectations it sets up is because, in all honesty, it means am I being, I don't want to say honest, but I do not like subverting people's expectations. I really don't. I don't do that. It should not. I really, every time it's done, it has to, in order for that to ever work out, you have to be excellent storyteller, like at the top of your game. And even those people can't do it often. If you want an example of subverting expectations, that would be Return of, it would be the middle, of the Jedi movies that have just come out, the Star Wars movies. That would be what that is. So anyway, I'll just reply to Melissa, and then I'm going to start EOS. So Melissa says, I'm reading The Fell now. When I first read there was incest, I was a bit wasn't sure about it. But when I started reading and I read how they are father and son, it isn't what I thought. I fell in love with both couples. Yeah, it's not. It really isn't the kink that one thinks it is. In fact, the normal kink for incest has that power dynamic. And that's cool. A lot of people like that. I don't. It felt too much like abuse. And there was a bit of that in the Fell and the Earl King. The Fell, I think, fixes that. But some people love the Earl King for that power dynamic. And I get it. So I'm not judging anyone in that. Just for me, I couldn't do it. Shaylina says, I think I've read up to book 3 on the Vampire Club. I need to go back, read it again, because I'm not sure where I stopped. But going to wait until I'm done with the Elven King's Blade. Yes, because you need sleep. All right. All right, everybody. We're going to go into Empire of Stars. Here we go. Chapter 9, The Osiris. Khoth held Jace closer to him as the elevator descended. The alien's strength was comforting, as Jace's own little remaining strength seemed to bleed out of him by the moment. In the arms of an alien. That would be a showstopper of an opening sentence for my book, Jace thought mirthfully. But he didn't laugh. It hurt to laugh. And Khoth might ask him what he was laughing about, which would put him in an awkward spot. Not as awkward as Thama's statement about probing. Unlike Khoth, she seemed almost human, warmer, definitely more comfortable with humans and their ways. He had a feeling that Khoth didn't do comfortable. He reminded Jace of a knight of old, while Thama was more like his father, a maverick. If the soldiers are outside of the elevator when we arrive, what's the plan, Commander? Thama asked. Jace cracked his eyelids open and frowned. What other plan could there be than try to talk themselves out of it or surrender? He did not want anyone hurt. He already knew that his parents were going to freak out at what he had done. Once he found Gehenna, though, he had a feeling that everything would be forgiven, at least on an official level. But on a familiar one, he was too old to be grounded, but he was certain his parents would think of some suitable punishment. But no matter how upset they were or what punishment they doled out, Jace knew he was doing the right thing. Metal Rain had saved everyone from the cool. From what he had been able to see of it, Khoth's ship had been on its last legs, smoke pouring from its engines, and from what his dreams of his own Paladin-class ship had taught him, making very wrong sounds. And there had simply been too many cool for Khoth to handle on his own, even though he'd been freaking impressive with his laser rifle and sword. Khoth's expression now was still that of a noble knight as he answered, Jace needs to get to Gehenna. If we have no other choice, we will subdue the humans. Subdue? Thama lifted her scarred eyebrow before letting out a whistle. Whew! You do realize that we are breaking every law there is. They can't send you to a worse post than Earth. At least it used to be a worse post, but now I must admit it's a hotspot of activity. Yet here you are, breaking more rules. So who or what is this Gehenna? Or is it the boy you're more interested in that's causing you to suicidally plunge ahead? Jace was fascinated to see that Khoth blushed. Not red, though, but instead his coloring grew a darker blue. Gehenna is an AI, a precursor AI, Khoth replied stiffly. Thelma's blue on blue eyes widened. She then spoke in a language that Jace didn't understand, and Khoth replied in it. It was melodic, with clicks of the tongue and contrastingly soft syllables. He assumed that it was Thafel. That was what Khoth had referred to himself as, language. Or maybe it was the equivalent of common in space. Jace almost laughed at that, too, but this time he sobered, and not because laughing would hurt. There was only one logical reason for them to stop speaking in English, considering how fluent they both were in it, and that was because they must not want him to know what they were saying. Maybe I shouldn't have trusted him so much out the gate, Jace realized. I didn't even attempt to talk to my parents about getting down here. Not that they would have agreed to it, but still. I asked the big blue alien to help. But Gehenna had brought Khoth to him to help. She must have thought that he, of everyone, would bring them together. And with the way Jace's head pounded and his blood felt like acid in his veins, he really needed to finish their connection. The pain was on another level as it was. But it doesn't seem like he's got that much respect for humanity. Jace forced himself to think rationally, and not just on the instinctive level he had been. And Thama's question is the right one. But he can't be doing this for me, Jace was sure of that. So he must be interested in Gehenna. Who wouldn't be interested in Gehenna? For one wild moment, Jace wondered if Khoth wanted Gehenna for himself or the Thafel. Maybe Khoth was just using Jace to lead him to her, and then he would simply take her away and leave Jace helpless on the floor. If Gehenna and I complete our connection, then maybe she won't be able to connect with him or another Thafel, Jace realized. He's the son of some bigwig, from what Thama said. He must definitely want Gehenna for himself. Jace felt a fool, even as his heart seemed to wrestle with his mind over what Khoth would do. Would Khoth really take Gehenna? And is Gehenna in any form to be taken? She's an AI. And leave him to suffer and die? A part of him felt that would never happen, but another part of him could see that Khoth's loyalties would naturally lay with his people and not humanity. He couldn't let Khoth or Thama hurt anyone. There had to be a non-violent way. Maybe the most obvious of these, which was to beg his parents to let him look inside the ship. But they won't. Yet. We're not subduing anyone. Jace found himself cutting into the Thafel's conversation. Both Khoth and Thama immediately went silent and looked at him. They hadn't realized he was still conscious. He wondered if he was. Auras bloomed sickeningly around everything. His head pounded like a drum. You need to get to Gehenna, Khoth reminded him. Yeah, but I don't want anyone else hurt because of it. I see what I've already put you in. I see that I've already put you both in a bad situation here, Jace said and grimaced. Another flare of pain like an ice pick being jammed right through his right temple. His nose was bleeding again. He swiped at it with the gauze. I should never have asked you to help me. Diet Coke break. Koth's blue on blue eyes widened. Though he might have been alien, thoughts and customs, his emotional cues seemed very similar to a human's. He was surprised and alarmed by Jace's words. When we get to the bottom of the elevator, even if there are no soldiers waiting there, we should search some out, Jace said. Tell them to contact my parents and you said yourself that your parents are too connected to their Z to think rationally about your request to connect to Gehenna. Khoth reminded him. They will stifle your efforts to get to the AI. Maybe. They might just slow them down, Jace admitted. The need to get to Gehenna was like adrenaline in his blood. Even as his body was incapable of doing it, he wanted to get down from Khoth's arms and pound on the elevator doors as if that could speed up their progress. But I can't have you and Thama breaking whatever agreement your species has with humanity just because I'm afraid my parents won't listen to me. Thama, who was leaning against the elevator wall, lifted her shoulders and looked into Khoth's eyes meaningfully, as if to say, I told you so. Khoth remained stone-faced. His gaze went to the indicator that showed they were still going down, as if wishing it would go faster, too. You'll do as I ask now, Jace licked his lips, unless you have other reasons for wanting me to take you to Gehenna. Khoth became, if it were possible, even more stone-faced. That told Jace, though, just as much as if the Thafel had confessed that he had ulterior motives like a monologuing villain, or at least additional ones to helping Jace. What did I think? That his gaze fell upon me and he became unable to resist my every request? Again, might work in a book, but not reality. Thama chuckled. He's got you there, Khoth. You cannot even stay silent without giving away your true feelings. What a terrible Thafel you are. That's why I know we are going to be great friends. Flight Commander Thama, Khoth began. No, she's right. I already guessed that you're helping me to help yourself, or your people at least, right? Jace asked. It crossed his mind then that maybe he shouldn't be cross-examining the giant blue alien who was holding him in his arms. Very muscular arms that appeared quite capable of crushing him, even if Jace hadn't been helpless. Khoth, though, did not react angrily, but instead appeared merely thoughtful before he stated, We have never encountered a precursor AI. From your description of what she enabled you to do, she is necessary for the war effort against the Cool. Yeah, I actually agree with you there, Jace stated. And am I really the one that should be connected with her? Jace wondered as self-doubt suddenly assailed him. She said that she's been training me for a decade to fight, but I'm not a warrior like Khoth. Wouldn't it, wouldn't it be better if Gehenna connected with someone like him? Do I really think I'm the one who is supposed to go out into space and fight the Cool? That's what we're talking about here. Going from farm boy to Jedi Knight here or something. Your parents, your people, will likely not allow us to examine the AI at first, and certainly not you, Khoth explained further. No, I know, which is part of why I thought you would help me, but Jace shut his eyes as the sickening pain increased. Jace? Khoth's voice was insistent. Jace realized he'd been saying his name more than once. Jace, though, finally could hear him over the piercing whine in his ears. The tinnitus was back with a vengeance. It's all right. I'm awake. We can't hurt anybody doing this, Khoth. Please tell me you won't, Jace begged. I will not harm any of our allies, but you must understand, Jace, that a precursor AI cannot be kept by humanity. Khoth finished, and there seemed like there must be a lot more to what he was thinking. Why not? You said that we were allies, Jace pointed out, even as blood dribbled over his lips. This is bad. This is really bad. Gehenna, where are you? She didn't answer, but he could feel her below them, almost as if they were going through a maze and she was the treasure at the end of it. Khoth brought out another bit of gauze and held it to Jace's nose to staunch the blood. Humans are not ready to join the fight, Khoth said simply, which really didn't explain anything at all. Jace, thinking of his own training in the storm spike and his father's ability to fly in general, couldn't see how that was true. But from the donkey look on Koth's face, it didn't look like he was going to win this argument. Gehenna told me that I'm special, the only one that can do this. I told him that, but he doesn't seem to believe me. Hell, I wouldn't believe me either. So, if you want Gehenna for the Thafel, are you going to still help me connect with her? Jace asked as more blood flowed and stained Koth's fingers. Koth went still and said nothing. His eyes, though, were filled with something. Sadness, regret, what? You've broken the rule of Dukeshka once, Koth. Thama's voice was soft. Are you honestly not going to do it again now? I did not break the rule to save my sister, Koth told her. I did what I believed was best for the Alliance. Thama's mouth tightened. How do you know what's best this time? Do you have a crystal ball? Jace knew that this wasn't good. What was best for the Alliance probably didn't include saving some random human. With a feeling of horror and foolishness, Jace realized that by trusting Koth, he might have made the worst mistake of his life. The elevator started to slow, even as Jace's nosebleed became more of a flood. Jace, time running out. Gehenna's voice was a bare whisper. He does not look well, Koth. Thama's voice was icy. The connection will heal him, yes? That's what you explained to me. Koth responded to her in the Thafel language. She snapped something back at him as her spine went ramrod straight and her eyes flashed. Koth responded in a firm, if emotionless tone. Though Koth could not understand the words, he got the gist of it. Thama wanted Koth to save him. Koth was reminding her of the greater good. Jace looked up into that strange yet beautiful face of Commander Khoth Voor. Was I wrong about you? Are you going to let me die? This is a good place to take a break. I desperately need more Diet Coke. Oh my goodness. Okay, here. My God, look at all these comments. This is so awesome. Okay. So, Shoy says, I haven't read The Vampires Club, but I love The Elven King's Blade. It's one of my favorites. Keep reading. Oh, I'm so glad people like that. It was sort of an unusual high fantasy story. Cinders and Ashes, I'm really looking forward to because it's another high fantasy one, and I have a really elaborate world starting to plan out with the Fae and stuff. So Shaylina says, laugh out loud. Yes, I do need sleep. Yes, you do, my dear. And then Shaylina responding to this, she said, I think that's part of the issue. I couldn't stop reading it. Yes, that she stayed up late reading Elven King's Blade. Colleen says, I can't stay long, but I still love catching up on your snory snippets, if I can even speak today. And your voice sounds nice. Have a good day. You too, Colleen. Have a good day. Alex says that blue blush is cute. I think so too. It was just something that's just like, and I could totally see him doing it. Key says, doing this quarantine, I was able to write snippets of my work on my voodoo story. My purpose for putting this out is to let everybody know that voodoo ain't all evil. The entertainment industry has demonized the culture for way too long. I recently joined a group dedicated to voodoo to educate me on it so I can write facts. Well, that's always good. Doing the research is very important. God knows. There's some topics I haven't gone into just because the research is so vast, and I honestly don't want to put myself in a false position. But good on you. Kelly says, this is a common symptom with race work. They draw you in that you forget the thing called sleep. Done that myself a time or two. Oh my God, that's amazing. I mean, I know that you guys don't well, maybe you do realize I'm like one of you. I'm like a fan. I'm a writer, but I can't even imagine anyone staying up late to read my stuff. I mean obviously I can't. I've been doing this for a long time, but at the same time it's so weird to hear because I think of you guys as friends and I'm like, oh my God, they're reading it, they liking it. It's so cool. Tara says, I do understand Koth's point about his race being better situated to fight, but it's only because they don't want humans as full partners and haven't made any real efforts to incorporate them fully in the alliance. Tara, you're right. That is part of the problem. They aren't completely wrong about humanity, in terms of us being a younger civilization and we have aggressive instincts, but that's part of our strength and weakness, I think. It's a double-edged sword. There's, some kind of species, um, you know, thrust that might, go against what other think are right. So the thing is that they wanted to try to ease humanity into it. And now they're not going to be able to do that. They're going to be dictated to, and it's going to be something. Alex says, something tells me the big blue alien is good at hugs and cuddling. He is. Especially since I think with the Thethal, since they are so controlled when they are in a love match, they are very much devoted to their partner. They're not necessarily like, they don't do PDAs, but when they're alone, they are loving gestures, just the way they are touching and everything. It's very important. That's where they get to really express their Z. Bob says, thank you for giving us the wonderful gift of your very precious time, as well as your storytime voice. This is just so much fun. Oh, Bob, I'm so glad you're here. I love doing it. Kat really gave me the confidence to do a podcast. Well, to do the first videos, and then after that to do the podcast. And she really said, because she's a very, like professional musician, and she just all things audio and video. She's just amazing at, audio too. She's an amazing composer. And I couldn't imagine myself being, someone who could do that. And she's like, no, you can. You have, this is professional level quality. And of course, with her mastering on the podcast, it really sounds good. So I've learned a lot from her, and she gave me the courage to do it. Okay, so it's another sip of Diet Coke. And then I will be back at it. Oh, by the way, those of you who are interested in the Vampires Club audio, Kieran has already recorded, I think, the first 7 chapters. I'm going to be hearing them soon. He's an amazing person, and I have such respect for those guys now because I'm going to be having him do all those accents. And of course, I got some DMs from people who are like, "Why did you change, narrators?" Like, not you guys, but other people. And I was like, "Well, I think Kieran's awesome. He is. I know he's different, but some of us just do not have the choice when a narrator will not do the work. And it just can't force them to do it as much as one would like to." That sounded wrong. I tried my best to keep the same person, but I just couldn't do that. And Kieran is incredible, and I hope you guys give him a shot. For those of you who are doing this, I am going to next month be giving away some codes again for audio. So, okay. We are going to continue on with part 2 of chapter 9 of Empire of Stars. He knew he was dying. There was no time left. He had to get to Gehenna. He couldn't wait on his parents. There was a breathless moment as the lift stopped before the doors opened. Would there be a squad of soldiers, weapons drawn, waiting for them? Or would there be just ahead of the military response? There were no soldiers, but Jace found himself sitting up more in Khoth's arms, mouth opening, eyes widening in pain forgotten for a moment. The Osiris was before them. Impressive, isn't she? And this is just a slice of her side, Thama said with a warm chuckle. For a moment, they likely shouldn't have taken. The 3 of them gazed at the spaceship that was still mostly hidden by rock, earth, and sand. Humans, Jace supposed, had dug down to what looked to be a natural cavern that the Osiris had punched through as it had crashed. The cavern was hundreds of feet long and twice as tall. The Osiris filled the entire far end, and it was clear that just as Sama had said, this was simply a slice of the ship. The Osiris looked to be at a 45-degree angle. While scaffolding, opaque plastic, and staircases covered much of the spaceship, Jace could still see sections of its skin, which was a deep, scintillating blue. It glittered as if the skin was studded with diamonds. As Koth shifted Jace, the skin's color appeared to change from blue to purple to red. Unlike the Paladin-class ships that Jace had seen and dreamed about, the Osiris had an architectural feel to it. The main body appeared to be an elongated ovoid form, what Jace could see anyways, but there were ribbon-like pieces that flowed out of the ship and curled back into it. The ribbons, of course, were more than large enough for blue whales to swim through and not touch the interior walls. He saw no windows, but he guessed that, like the storm spike in Koth's ship, what was happening outside would be projected on screens to the ship's passengers and crew. I have never seen a Colossus-class ship like this, Koth murmured as his brow furrowed. Thama let out a soft grunt. And you've never seen what's inside, either. The Osiris is unique, as far as I can tell. Let us go to it. Gehenna is inside, yes, Jace? Koth queried as he carried Jace swiftly from the elevator. The Thafel ran as easily as if he weren't encumbered at all. He held Jace tight to him so that he wasn't jostled as much either. It was hard to believe he was simply going to let Jace die when he was taking such care of him. He probably doesn't want to die. If he has a choice, sorry, should we want me to die? I'm adding that. He probably doesn't want me to die. If he has a choice, he'd save me. But if it's between taking Gehenna for the Thafal or giving it to humanity, oh boy, maybe I should remind him that I'm Gehenna's chosen one? That thought again sounded mad, and again, Khoth had already stated that he thought that Precursor-technology always worked the best for his species. Maybe when Gehenna had the two of them as choices, she changed her mind about Jace. Khoth had dashed towards a large metal box covered in netting, ready to be lifted up to the scaffolding that covered most of the Osiris. He and Thama crouched down behind it, just as several soldiers hustled towards the elevator. And said they were heading down, one soldier called out. We're to halt and detain them, another one said. Jace opened his mouth to call out to them, but then he heard the whisper of Gehenna's voice in his mind. Time. Running. Out. If they were found and detained, it would be too late for him. Jace shuddered. Or maybe it was a shiver, because he was suddenly icy cold, and yet sweat coated his skin again. We're going to have a hell of a time getting inside the ship through the front door. Thama pointed to an opening into the ship at the very top of the scaffolding and narrow staircases. But both Koth and Jace were looking at the top of what almost looked like a wound in the Osiris' side. The metal, if that's what the outside was made out of, was peeled back. Jace frowned even as his thoughts were beginning to swirl with pain. The rip looks to have been caused by something blowing outwards from the inside. Not an attack from the outside, he realized. Just as Koth was about to mention the rip, Jace was pointing at it and saying without any conscious desire to do so, There. We have to go in there. She's down in a lower deck. How do I know that? But Jace was beyond being able to decipher his own motivations. What was coming from him and what was coming from Gehenna were all mixed. His vision was starting to tunnel. He felt a hand on his cheek. The skin was soft and warm. His body is weakening, Koth said. Jace, you must conserve your strength. Why should he do that? What's the point of it? Thama asked quietly. Unless you let him finalize his connection with Gehenna. That's the choice, Koth. You know what the choice is. Jace's hearing had gone in and out. He didn't hear all that she said, but again he could guess. Let him die and take Gehenna, or let him connect and maybe lose Gehenna to the humans. We must go, Koth said simply. Thama cursed under her breath. He didn't need to understand the words to understand that. Koth crouched low to the ground, practically curling over Jace's body. One of his long lengths of hair that was caught by several of the intricate beads fell across Jace's face. Koth's hair was incredibly soft, like fine strands of silk. The beads clacked softly as he moved. He found himself concentrating on them as Koth snuck from box to box towards the rip, avoiding soldiers like a blue shadow. Aliens exist. Spacecrafts. Spaceships exist. Gehenna exists. I cannot die now. Not when I've finally found this. The fluorescent lights that illuminated the cavern suddenly seemed to go dark. A shudder went through Jace as he feared that his vision was going. But no, they had stepped up to the Osiris's side and were underneath one of the sections of skin that had been pulled back. It blocked out the electric light. Before them was darkness. It was the interior of the ship. Khoth and Thama both touched something on the fronts of their suits, and piercing beams of light streamed from their suits into the darkness. The rip opened up into a hallway that sloped down into the earth. The hallway was broad, about 20 feet wide, with floors that were a glassy blue, the color of cobalt. They looked almost wet, like water, they were so shiny. The walls were gray, with various insets that looked like they could open up. A hollow display appeared above Koth's right wrist. He tapped something and then confidently stepped onto the sloping floor. Instead of tumbling forward, his boots made a clicking sound as they locked into place. Thama did the same. Again, Jace was pointing where they were to go. He indicated towards the sloping end. Go to the door at the end of the hall. There will be a hatch on the left wall. Open it. We need to then go down 3 levels before exiting through another hatch. Will our cutting tools get through? Khoth frowned. No, but the hatches will open for me, Jace said, even as he had no idea if that were true. But he felt it was true. All of this feels so familiar, like I've done this before. Maybe my training included getting to Gehenna. How do you know this, Jace? Thama asked as they started to walk down the sloping hallway with their boots making thunking sounds as they released and locked with every step. Gehenna, she showed me this, where she is, and I can feel her. Jace got out, even as the effort to talk seemed to increase with every word. Do not speak, Jace, unless necessary. We will have plenty of time to talk after, Khoth said. After? Thama's voice lilted dangerously. Yes, Khoth said. Does he mean there will be an after? Or I'll just be dead after? Why can I not really believe badly of him? Because Gehenna brought him to me? Because he seems noble? They had made it to the hatch. The hallway had ended in a shut door. The door reminded him of the one in Star Wars that came together vertically. The door was completely impassable. There were no lifts that were working inside of the spaceship. The Osiris seemed dead, but Jace knew that it wasn't. It was just waiting to wake up. Lean down. Lean down. I need to touch the hatch, Jace told Khoth. The hatch was the size of a normal human door. It looked like one of the many insets in the walls. Khoth did as he was asked, and Jace placed a hand in the center of the hatch. Blood stained it from his fingers. He closed his eyes and imagined the live wire that he'd seen when he'd summoned Metal Rain. There was the barest electrical burst from his fingers to the hatch, or maybe he just felt the hatch turning as it slid silently to the... Or maybe he just felt the hatch turning on as it slid silently to the side, revealing a shaft. We need to get to the bottom of the shaft, Jay said as he slumped back against Khoth, exhausted beyond measure. The shaft was angled, just like the floor was, but this time it was to their advantage. We can slide down, Khoth stated as he tightened his hold on Jace as he levered them both into the shaft. Thama called out, Perhaps I should go first, see if it's safe before you... No, there's no time. I can feel him fading, Khoth said, and it seemed like there was a hitch in that cool, unemotional voice. Why don't you just ask him where she is and be done with it? Don't drag him down into the dark with you for his last moments, Thama stated icily. Does the rule of Dukeshka require you to make him suffer? Or are you just afraid he won't tell you what you want to know if you don't bring him with you? But Khoth was already in the shaft with him, and they were sliding down. Khoth braced his feet and the sides to control their rate of speed. Jace was so cold. He was so cold that he couldn't even shiver. He lay like a dead thing on Khoth's chest, cradled in his arms as they slid into the black bowels of the Osiris. Jace understood what Dama was saying. Khoth needed to get to Gehenna. He couldn't risk Jace not telling him where she was, and maybe she was right. But Jace had to believe that Khoth would help him. He had no other choice but to think that or simply die right then and there. Not dying. Not yet. They reached the bottom of the shaft. There was another hatch. Jace tried to lift his hands towards it, but he only got halfway before his hand felt back. Khoth lifted his hand and placed it upon the hatch. There was a soft electric zing before the hatch opened into another hallway. But this one was different than the one above. This one had doors, many heavy, secure doors on each side of the hallway. Khoth stepped out onto the hallway and simply stared. There was a squealing sound as Thama's boots rode along the shaft sides, then a thump as her boots locked onto the floor. She came out of the shaft then and joined them. She turned her body this way and that as she took in the hallway. This looks like... She paused, and then she continued. I believe these are prison cells. Jace pointed towards the one at the very end, the one that was even more secure than the others. Gehenna. She's in there. That is the end of chapter 9. Oh boy, do I need Diet Coke. Oh, I need Diet Coke. So it's really interesting. I did not intend on Gehenna actually being who she is. And yet, I did not intend on the Osiris either. I did not intend on any of this. And it was actually comments. They weren't like comments like suggesting like, Gehenna is this or Gehenna is that. But it was more like your guys' thoughts about where this was leading, that suddenly I had these ideas. And they just kept coming. Richer ideas, better ideas than I had before. So Olivia says, oops, I can't wait for cuddles and hugs. Oh, yes, that is coming. That is definitely coming. Hannah says, I remember years ago when you scrapped the first version of The Dark Earth and restarted the story entirely. I cried in grief because I really liked the story and I felt like I wasted months of time waiting for the story. Granted, the new story was better, but I was a little gun shy with it and refused to read the first 50 chapters or so because I was afraid I'd get attached and then you would start over again. When you started The Abyss, I took it better, but I have to admit that I'm relieved you haven't restarted a story in a long time. It was so stupid of me. And Hannah, the way you put this, that I made you guys, fall in love and then I suddenly took it away, I'm really sorry about that. I have learned a lot in the sense that serial stories for me are really, other than they have a general outline, but in the past I didn't even have that. Really, the best stuff comes when you are not planning for it. Like I was just explaining with this one, Gehenna's backstory, the Osiris, none of this I had planned originally, and yet it is probably the best stuff. And there's a lot of good stuff in there, but I think this is going to really add to the depth of the story. The problem was in the past, I think, writing is a skill as much as an art, meaning the more you do it, the better you get. The more you have to think in epic way, epic arcs, the better you get at doing that, like having some control. But I also have just decided that if I do something, I have to live with it and work with it and not think of it as a bad thing, but as an opportunity. Kat always says, oh, you've written yourself into a corner again, haven't you? And yeah, that happens sometimes. But the thing is, you can write yourself out of it. And you have to, instead of starting and restarting it and scrapping. So I won't ever do that again. I will never do that again. I will never, ever, ever do that again. So don't worry about it. I'm so glad that you continued on because I know there were a couple people who did not. And I completely understand that. I didn't think of it as a question of trust. I really didn't. I thought that I was just trying to give you something so much better. And that's all I focused on. But I didn't really consider it, what the emotional impact would be. Shalina says, at work, washing dishes in our break room and enjoying the podcast. That's how busy my work is right now. Oh, I'm so glad that you were able to listen. I know that you work on Saturdays, so that's always tough. Crystal says, Yep, I have resisted the urge to read ahead just so I can do a read along. It's like reading a great new book that's whisper synced. Oh, cool. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Yay. I'm loving it. I love doing it. And it also is allowing me to edit as I go. Laura says, I disliked Khoth for a bit, but all good. All good. I know. I think that there is a line, isn't there, where in the beginning of the story when they're at odds, they are at odds and they each have to grow and change and have an arc and everything like that. And normally the arc has to really touch upon the thing that's most between them. And so that's always difficult. That's a balancing act. Sometimes I feel like I've not done that very well or wimped out on doing that because I think one of the things that I had a problem was the good guy stuffed shirt, where the villains people found much more interesting because they honestly were much more engaging because they had problems and but they were it just made them more interesting. And I think definitely in Koth, he is not a good guy, stuffed shirt. He's actually got issues, and he's got viewpoints that we might not all like all the time. But trying to still see him as someone that we'd root for is good. Kelly says, Raythe, I am no writer. I am an avid reader, have been since birth. I love stories that I can see and experience. Your stories are such works, and Keith, I would be interested to read your work when you're published. Thank you so much. I mean, and that's such a generous offer also to help another author. And I will say something about Wraith Rain readers. Um, Most authors would be absolutely freaking terrified to put out things that are not perfect, that have not been edited up the wazoo, that have not had a ton of beta readers, that have not been, really, looked at. I put up the rawest of the raw. I mean, I go through it several times, but God knows I don't see all the typos. But let's ignore the typos. Just a story. You guys have been willing to essentially um, give me the benefit of the doubt. I put up a story and we go from science fiction to high fantasy to urban fantasy to shifters, and you guys pick up the stories no matter what it is. And you really let me feel safe. That is not to say that you do not call me out when something is not working. You do. But what is so awesome is as readers, and people who devour stories, story structure, whether it's formalized or not. You understand what's going on if something doesn't jibe, and you can tell me. But what's really been great is I have a safe space to fall flat on my face all the time, and I have fallen flat on my face. But you guys have still kept with me and also, quite frankly, just supported me and given things a try, maybe that weren't your favorites. Maybe they never became a favorite, but some of them did. And then your thoughtful commentary really made the story better, no matter what. Kelly says, as to EOS, the characters are so lifelike from the get go. I really thought about them a lot, Kelly. I was living with this story in my head for a long time. And I can say that that's really been helping me. Everdark Academy, I've also already been living with this story and the world, so I know these characters, and Cinders and Ashes as well. And then the Choose Your Own Adventure, I'm going to start going into that. But I think the process that I have now of building the worlds, getting the artwork, thinking about the stories for several months before I start is just hugely important. It allows those characters to marinate. I do those movies in my head like I do with Star Wars, and I really know these backwards and forwards. And it is a movie in my head. I get to have them act out the whole thing and all this kind of stuff. So it's really neat. Kitty says, speaking of podcasts, oh my God. Yes. By the way, members, there is a chapter up of the podcast. Like I said, coming up in June, we are going to have, when there's a podcast day, there's not going to be any live reading. And then, so there's 2 podcasts a month, and then also there are going to be 2 of these a month, just to give me a little bit of a break, because I literally have not had a day off It won't be until Monday will be my first day off since the pandemic started. And though honestly, Wraith Rain is my life's blood, my joy, and I like nothing better. Kat says you need to just play some video games and just like chill for a bit. So she's right. She knows me so well. I mean, so well. So Shoy says, I'm really loving your voice for Khoth, Wraith. It's cool hearing other people's interpretations on the characters' accents and speech patterns. I'm trying to do a cross between basically Spock and but a little deeper, not a little deeper, but a little like with a little bit more rigidity. Although Spock wasn't as rigid as Coy. Like Spock was open to new facts, right? I mean, he made his determination based on facts. But the truth is that Koth is really doing this out of a cultural necessity, and that's why Thama is going to tell him like, "No, you're not. That's not who you really are." Hannah says, Dragon's Reign. Yes, Dragon's Reign podcast is up. For those of you who are not members, you can listen to the Dragon's Reign podcast, which is another one of my serials for free on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everything. It's behind in chapters to the one on the site. But it's another way to reach people because, as we all know, for many advertisers, gay romance equals porn. And that means they will not have it on their platform. And it's just really hard to reach people. I'll give you an example. If we wanted to reach people for, who are interested in gay stuff, you cannot actually use the word gay. It doesn't narrow down your audience because they're afraid of discrimination, which I totally understand. But at the same time, it's really difficult to narrow it down to those who like gay fiction when you don't know their thoughts and stuff. So we have different other ways of doing that. Well, Kat does. She's like the mistress. Pam says, so happy to hear that the audiobook, I hear that the audiobook is in my list as soon as you tell us that it is ready to be bought. I will. I am, as soon, he's putting it up as fast as possible. I'm going to be listening to it. ACX, which is the back end of Audible, has been taking forever. I realize we are all working from home, but you tell me that checking files cannot be work from home, and I laugh. But then again, if they hadn't been set up that way before, which I can't believe, but maybe they weren't. I mean, my God, I work for an insurance company. We were set up. It took them literally almost 2 months to approve. So Tara says, I love Koth's physical gestures to Jace. His subconscious desires just scream through. Yes. And that is going to be one thing that I think Thama, of all people, in a weird way, is really going to challenge him. And she's going to be like, you're trying to be someone you're not. And that's not to say that there isn't good stuff that the Fel have to offer. They do. They really, really do. But he is not being honest to himself. Kelly says, Thama plays devil's advocate. Yes, she does. She's just one of these people who does not respect authority. She respects, basically, how shall I say? She offers respect to those things that have earned her respect. Nothing is guaranteed and nothing is automatically given. Pam says the end is so awesome of that chapter. Yeah, I know. It's like she's in the last prison cell, like the most like high tech, like totally freaky. Shaylina says, do you know when you will open the poll on suggesting aliens? I have mine written down and ready to share. Great. We have a couple people like that. We are going to have, Kat is putting together, one thing that I've noticed is that there's going to always be a blog post before every month now, and it's really going to be interesting. She's doing a vlog, and I think I'm going to be reading it, maybe. I don't know how she wants to do it. Where you're going to know everything that comes up in the month, and then after that is when I will put up about the aliens. So Tara says, Gehenna reminds me of The Matrix. Don't want to give it away to those who haven't read the next chapter. Yeah. Kelly says, the writer MacGyver, writing your way out of it. Yes, that is perfect. That is so freaking perfect. That's exactly it. And trying to keep it legit, like legit on what you've done. And not just, Deus Ex Machina. Matt says, hey, R, the end of this chapter really makes you consider who Gehenna really is. It should. it should make you really question her. And yeah, Bob says, one of the things I love about these stories is how you write the chapter, then get up and come over and sit with us, and are just as excited about the story and wondering what will happen next as we are. I am so glad that you guys are open to seeing how the sausage is made. I mean, I'm positive there are authors out there that are just like, in their ivory towers, able to write these wonderful novels and know exactly what's going to happen next and have outlined the hell out of these things. And I am in awe of them. That is not how I write. I am just intrigued by my left brain is going to suggest what you guys are going to suggest in the comments, what's going to suddenly spur me off on this like squirrel chase. And it makes it fun for me because I actually inhabit the character that I'm writing the point of view from. So when I'm writing from Khoth's point of view, I am Khoth, and when I'm writing from Jace, I am Jace, and then I'm also like sort of like this third person out there somewhere. So I'm very excited. I'm always very excited. So Olivia says, I'm thinking the next level would be dramatizations of your stories. Yeah, one thing that I'm still totally wanting to do. Um, we have something special planned that I'm really excited about, and I won't mention it, Kat. Don't worry. But I still do want to do live action. But I know nothing about that. I mean, I need to get like, I mean, I'm in Chicago and it'd be easy to sort of call for actors, but I would need like basically a videographer, and we need to be able to pay people. And that is something that I've always wanted to do, like a series of webisodes based on a vampire idea I have that would involve only two actors and one or two locations. But I really need to figure out how would I do that? Like, what are the steps to do that? And I just haven't gotten there yet. Shaylina says, "Oh, and I'm gonna just, something cool, and this happened years ago, but I still hold on to it as hope. We actually did have a producer, like a well-known producer, contact us about doing the artifact, but they did not go for like getting an option, like to make it into a movie or a series or something. But it did not go forward. But I have to say, I did get that, and I was so excited." Shaylina says, I've had about 6 stories in my head for over a decade and have started them, but I can't seem to sit down long enough without getting distracted to get too far into any of them. One of the things I would suggest, you are not alone, I have the same problem, is to do timed sprints. What do I mean by this? Set an alarm on your phone or through, in my case, I use Alexa. And I basically say I do 20 minutes of writing where all I have to write. I cannot look at internet. I cannot watch TV. I cannot do anything else but write. And you don't stop writing. Just write. Just write whatever it is. Don't get caught up in the words. Just stream of consciousness. When that 10 minutes is done, you are allowed 10 minutes or 20 minutes of whatever you want to do. And in my case, I do 20 minutes of watching a show or a YouTube video, or I will play video games. And video games really just, allow me to do that. And you just go back and forth between them. And it's really getting into flow. So you need to find the time frame that works for you. And just think about this. You can do anything for 10, 20 minutes. Anything, even if it sucks donkey balls. That's pretty much, sometimes what writing is in the beginning of stuff until you get used to it. Alex says, far too much so-called romance writing is just pure smut. It actually annoys me. I know you can't list erotica on Amazon, but you shouldn't you shouldn't pretend it's romance outside of that. And insults genuine romance authors like you, Raythe. I think someone would claim I'm not a romance author at all. I'm action adventure, because the romance is normally not the focus. But I understand what you're saying. There is a double standard out there in terms just people are so weird, hypocritical about sex. And to be honest with you, when, erotica really was a little engine that pushed a lot of these programs like Amazon and getting tons of money. But then they started doing things like, not showing them on bestseller lists because it was quote unquote embarrassing that they were selling basically what they considered porn, although erotica and porn are different. And all this kind of stuff. And there's porn on Amazon, by the way. There's erotica, and then there's a whole other layer of porn, which is just, there is no plot at all, or it's just a total fetish. which is fine. By the way, I'm not judging that. I think it's fine. I think, in fact, we should have these things openly put on Amazon. So people who are interested in, for example, there's a milking thing. I won't even get into it, but it's out there. They should be able to find it and buy it and not be ashamed of it. And Amazon just has to figure out a way so that, the children don't get to it. But the truth is that children find things no matter where they are, and children can easily find porn anywhere. So if you let your kid on the internet without supervision, without parental controls, they will get to porn. And they will even get to it on Amazon now. But the problem is, people are, in order to make a living, a lot of these erotic authors switched over to basically calling their stuff romance when it was not. And a lot of romance writers have been putting their stuff into categories where it should not be. And then, of course, Amazon categorizes stuff all the time, all the time. Like putting dragon shifters into sword and sorcery. They are not the same thing. I love both, but they are not the same thing. But you will find that the sword and sorcery genre in Amazon is filled with dragon shifters, because dragon is the word that comes up with a lot of this stuff. So I hear you, Alec. It's very frustrating, but it has to do with the fact that, honestly, people are being prudes. Kelly says, "Oh my God, live action! Yes, please. Yes, I definitely want to do it. I am going to look into it. Right now, we have some very good, cool stuff going on. Another way to experience the stories that I want to do, that we can do in house. And obviously, with social distancing, none of the live action can happen for a very long time, but it will." Sophie says, "I am so very thankful that you publish your chapters so quickly without taking years to polish them. I love to read a bit more every few days. Imagine if all authors were like George R. R. Martin. Sure, his novels are awesome, but really waiting 10 years is too long." It is too long. It's really long, rather. Um, and I, you know, I think a lot of times, well, let's put it this way. Never thought I could write as much as I do now, but I can write as much as I do now because you guys are counting on it. So if George R. R. Martin had an actual date that he felt he didn't have, I mean, he's made so much money, he doesn't have to do anything. And I think he's probably just frozen. He's probably just done with it, to be honest with you, which I hate to say, but the truth is that, he's just probably like it. There's too much expectation. It's probably causing him to have a great deal of fear, and he just can't crank it out. He never cranks it out. But I think that he's done, and I think he's afraid to put out what will undoubtedly disappoint fans. The books in the series that wrap things up are always the hardest, and you're going to disappoint someone. That's just how that is. So Shaylin is replying to Sophie, or Jim Butcher, one of my husband's favorite authors. Yeah, I like Jim Butcher, although he's been doing some other stuff. I don't know if he's doing Dresden anymore, but I just picked up one of his fantasy books, which was interesting. And then weirdly, I didn't finish it. So I'm sort of, I don't know. I just find like what I'm looking for, again, doesn't just feel like it's out there. I can't explain it. It's like a mixture. It like so many books are bore me, and then other books are just I don't know. I can't figure it out. It's maybe just me. I've got too much in my head. Um. Anyway, all right, we are going to do chapter 10, but I need to actually grab another Diet Coke and I need to pee. You all need to know that. So take like 5 minutes for yourselves to grab your own stuff, and I will be right back. Okay? I will be right back. Okay, I am back. Mm. Oh, that tastes good. All right. So Matt says, for me, you have successfully put together and fantasy, two of my favorite genres. And as a gay man, it's hard to find that. Thank you for this. Thank you so much, Matt. One of the things I've heard a lot, which is pretty cool, is the idea that what I write is like the, basically the stuff that you would expect, like the normal, fantasy, um, sci-fi, and stuff, but the characters just happen to be gay. So it's like, I heard a lot about that. They appreciate that. I'm just not into contemporary coming out stories. I just really like this. Okay, so I have gone on long enough, and we are going into Empire of Stars, Chapter 10. Chapter 10, Intergalactic Criminal. Why would an AI need to be in a physical prison cell? Khoth murmured. Forget that, Commander. Why would an AI be in a prison at all? Is Gehenna some kind of intergalactic criminal? Thama asked, hands on hips as she scanned their dark and foreboding surroundings. Jace gave out a wheeze, which Khoth realized was actually a laugh, but he was so weak that it sounded more like a simple exhale of breath. Guilt assaulted him. The young man was near death. He could see the closing shadows in Jace's gray eyes. He'd seen those same ones in Dace's. I did not break the rule of Dukeshka to stop her suffering at the hands of the Cool, he reminded himself. I did not do it in a vain hope that somehow she could be saved. I did not do it because I couldn't imagine a universe without her. Did I? There had been no chance to save Desa, regardless of what his Z had wanted. Cool infected their prisoners the moment they were taken. Once the prisoners were on their ships, there was simply no chance for them. The only thing Khoth could have offered Desa was an end. It was to end her suffering and to stop the Cool from learning all she knew. But there was a way to save Jace. All he had to do was take Jace to Gehenna and not interfere, not delay the completion of whatever this connection was, not seek another solution that would allow him to have the best of both worlds. All he needed to do was to honor his word to Jace. But in doing so, he would be again violating the rule of Dukeshka. He could almost hear his mother's voice telling him that what would be best for the whole is if he used Jace to find Gehenna, but did not allow the connection to complete. His mother would remind him that Gehenna had the potential of increasing their knowledge of not only precursor-technology, but the precursors themselves, which was invaluable. What if Gehenna could lead them to other unknown Altaith worlds with stockpiles of new weaponry and technology that could aid their war against the Cool? What if she could tell them the history of the war between the Altaith and the Cool? What had started it? What would end it? What if Gehenna knew where the Altaith were now and how to reach them? Allowing Jace to connect to Gehenna would mean that this information, if it existed, would be shared only with the humans. Unless, of course, Jace wished to tell others. The humans, though they seemed to understand the necessity of the fight against the Cool, might try to use access to this information to bargain their way into the Alliance. Humans are said to be too primitive to join us, and they could more than join us with the power of Gehenna. They could demand a position of leadership. Now that would be a disaster. To have a species that is so barely able to stop destroying itself, leading those who know better? He shuddered at the thought. So the rule of Dukeshka would dictate that he not allow this connection to happen. If such an action caused Jace's death, that would be unfortunate. But the needs of the many simply outweighed one bright-eyed human's life. However, letting Jace die would likely damage the accord with humanity. He had no way of knowing whether he could easily transport Gehenna off Earth. Based upon her actions so far, it appeared she was limited in her ability to transfer from the prison cell. Perhaps she was even limited to a physical form of some sort. That would explain the need for a physical prison like this one. And it might mean she was simply too bulky to remove without assistance and time, neither of which they had. He had his exosuit monitoring the humans' communications, and they were all searching for him, Thama, and Jace. The whole of the base was on red alert. Again, even if he could shoot his way out, would the loss of life, the loss of an alliance, be worth it? Gehenna, being in a prison cell, complicated the potential benefit she offered. Someone had put her in there. Someone had perhaps thought she needed to be locked up. Though from Jace's pained amusement at her being classified as an intergalactic criminal, he did not seem to think her current whereabouts were a deal breaker. But she has linked herself to him for a long time, Khoth reasoned. She is his only chance of survival. Humans have difficulty with pure, clear-headed Za at the best of times. This is hardly one of those times for Jace, so he might simply not want to admit the truth about her. And yet, he also had to admit that Jace had remained remarkably calm throughout this. There was also another point against letting Jace die, which is what if, as she had told Jace, Jace was truly the only one who could connect with her? If Jace died, that eliminated the possibility of them ever having access to her knowledge and abilities. After all, Thafel had been on board the Osiris since its discovery, but Gehenna had not partially bonded with any of them. He could always argue that taking Gehenna at her word, or Jace's words really, was the only logical course, as he did not know what might happen otherwise, and the risk of losing Gehenna altogether was simply too great as compared to sharing her with the humans. I could always argue. My thoughts betray me. I am searching for a reason to not let Jace die. The young man's eyes were closed now, and his breathing was coming in short gasps. His skin was gray, an unnatural color for a human, and a sheen of sweat covered his face. Khoth imagined for a moment if those eyes never opened again, or if the next time he saw them, they were glazed over with the cataracts of death. He shuddered. Jace doesn't have any more time, Commander. We need to get him to Gehenna, Thama reminded him. Her narrowed eyes also told him that she was aware of his inner turmoil. Though as a Thafel, she should be more concerned that he was leaning towards helping Jace, no matter what the cost, rather than concerned he was considering how he might save Jace and keep the AI for the Thafel. But he had a feeling that she, like himself, wouldn't be considered a very good Thafel in many eyes anyways. We need to find a way to open her cell door remotely, a control panel or something that our exosuits can interface with, Khoth said as he cast about for anything like that, but found nothing. We are not going to be able to access it manually. Gehenna's prison cell was at the far end. While all of the doors that lined the hallway were impressive in terms of thickness and banding of the calcanth, there also looked to be sophisticated locking mechanisms attached to each, and Gehenna's looked even more complicated. Even now, his exosuit systems told him that these doors remained firmly locked even without any power going to them. This was unusual because normally when power failed, locks automatically were opened, even in prison colonies, for the safety of the prisoners. But here, it was clear that the overwhelming purpose was to keep whatever was locked in these cells inside, no matter what the cost. His suit's scanners were not even able to penetrate the cell's structures to see who or what was imprisoned inside. Not that it was likely that anything could have survived all this time. Except for an AI like Gehenna, he reminded himself. I don't see anything. All these doors appear locked. Thama was tapping on her exosuit's holographic controls that had appeared over her right forearm. Just get to the door. Jace got out. I can open it like the other parts. It's still connected to the Osiris too. It will be done, Khoth said. They immediately began to climb the hallway. It was much harder going up than coming down had been, as the hallway was at a 45-degree tilt. Even with the assistance of the exosuit, his leg muscles strained. Sorry, I can't walk, Jace got out. I think Khoth likes holding you in his arms, Jace, Thama said with a wink at him, for as often as he gazes down upon you. Khoth scowled at her, about to offer a rebuke to such flippery at this moment, but she must have understood Jace's Z better than he did, as a hint of color filled the boy's face. Yes, Oh, I left it out. The young man's. Uh, Hold on one second. You think? Jace smiled, even as his eyes remained closed. That's nice to be wanted. Koth put more effort into his climbing. He wanted those eyes open. Why is she down here? Thama muttered. Perhaps she was placed here to protect her, Koth suggested. From what? Thama lifted an eyebrow at him. He saw that she kept looking over her shoulder as if she heard something following them. She was not afraid of the humans, he knew. Their exosuits made it quite clear that the humans were well above them, with no idea about the hatch or the shaft. Only Jace had been able to make the hatch work in any case. The rip in the Osiris's hull. Why has no one mentioned that it looks to have been caused by some internal act? Khoth asked. That's above my pay grade, Thama said. Khoth's forehead furrowed. Above your what? It means that it isn't something that I was assigned to look into, Thama told him. I'd assumed that other Alliance members than me had their reasons for not including that in their previous reports, and I'm not much of a report person myself, so Koth could very well believe that while Thama would have any ship in pristine condition, she would likely never write even a line on a report. But this is crucial, knowing how and why the Osiris crash landed here, Koth said with a deep frown. Perhaps the Osiris had been boarded, or perhaps there had been spies who had tried to sabotage a spaceship. Perhaps there had even been a mutiny of some sort. I have never seen such a large brig in a precursor ship, but the Osiris is larger than most in many respects. Still, perhaps its purpose was to transport dangerous criminals. She says she doesn't know. Some of her systems were damaged, Jace replied faintly. The sound of his voice, so weak and raspy compared to before, had Koth practically throwing himself up the last few feet to the door of Gehenna's prison. Jace, we are here. Are you speaking with Gehenna? How do we get inside? Koth asked. Jace blindly reached for the door again without speaking. He seemed too exhausted to speak. Koth had to guide his hand to it again. For a moment, Jace's fingers curled around his. The young man held on to his hand as if there was a momentary electric zap, and the cold Calcanth door suddenly rumbled to life. It sank back and then slid to the side. Before he and Thama leaned forward, both he and Thama leaned forward to see what was inside. Okay, I'm going to take a break because my voice is dying for a second here. Ugh. Hold on, Diet Coke. The sky has gone very dark here. We are in a tornado warning, which is always interesting when I have a wall full of windows. It looks cool, though. Okay. So Sophie's replying to Matt. She says, if you're looking for a show to watch with fantasy and gay romance, try The Untamed on YouTube. I'm watching it, and I love it. It's Chinese, and even though the kisses are censored because China, it has a ton of gay romantic scenes, and the romance is actually canon. It's about a clan of noble warriors, exorcists, fighting evil spirits on each other. Oh, I'm going to definitely check that out myself, man. Awesome. I did not know that interesting. Sophie says, Koth, imagine for a moment if those eyes never opened again. Jace's beautiful eyes win over all the other arguments. Yes, they do. Yes, they do, damn it. They always do. Pam agrees with me. She says they do, and that he is perfect for Koth's arms. Yes, they do. Kelly, that's above my pay grade. The alien using human idiom and having to explain the idiom to a fellow alien. Yes, that is a moment in time. Because she really loves human stuff. I see her as like kicking back and basically watching shows and reading books and really getting to know humans. She's got a pretty open mind, a very open mind. All right, I will continue on because I know I've chattered so long. My voice, my voice. There was no light, no signs of life. Only the lights from their suits illuminated the square 10 by 10-foot space. There was a bunk that jutted out from the right side of the wall. He saw another receptacle for waste, And AI needed neither, so this prison had not been intended for Gehenna when the Osiris was built. But that was an afterthought, as Koth was transfixed by what was in the center of the room. At first, he didn't know what he was seeing. It looked to be a jumble of black coils, about 2 inches in diameter, tipped with metal claws and spikes. The coils were curled around one another like snakes, but they all merged, or perhaps emerged was the correct term, from one place. A bulbous, glass-like sphere. The sphere appeared to be translucent, but right now had a dark center. It reminded him of a squid, an aquatic cephalopod found in some of Earth's waters, except made of metal and glass. All told, he imagined, it would stand 10 feet tall if the tips of the coils touched the ground and were completely unfurled. Is that is that Gehenna? Thelma asked, the confusion evident in her voice. There was a trace of alarm, too. This doesn't look like. I mean, the tips of the coils are weapons. Jace's arm slipped from his grasp. At first, Koth thought it was intentional, that Jace was reaching for the squid, but then he realized that Jace wasn't breathing. Jace? Jace! Koth cried. He's not breathing. He has no heartbeat. What do we do? Put him in the arms of that thing? Thelma gestured towards the squid, but that seemed an insane suggestion. The squid was not operational. He set Jace's body on the floor. Jace's head rolled to the side. Those eyes were closed. He brought up the suit's medical systems and adjusted it for human physiology. His fingers flew over the controls. Finally set, he placed his hands one over the other over Jace's heart. Clear! He yelled, so that Thelma knew not to touch Jace in that moment. An electrical shock went from his suit into Jace's body. Jace jumped up with a jolt, but his suit told him that the shock had been unsuccessful. Clear! Thelma stepped back. Her foot touched one of the coils. It shifted and slid into Jace's palm. It happened just as he was applying the electric shock. He couldn't stop in time. The shock ran through Jace and into the squid. The squid's head suddenly lit up like the sun rising on Hassian. The colors of molten gold, molten red, orange, and yellow bloomed so bright that he had to squint. The coils began to move. The squid's head rose up from the ground. Whoa! It's alive! Koth! It's alive! Thelma cried out. The coils slithered over Jace's form, completely obscuring him from sight. And what an interesting way for me to spell sight. That's good. Koth had left his weapons, his Rahir and Dragavas, back on the Exarch, but he still had the suit and his skills. He kicked out at the squid's head. He didn't even brush it with the sole of his boot. The squid's coils lifted Jace up off of the floor, and then it rammed its bulbous head into Koth's middle. There was another electric zap, and he was thrown out of the cell and landed flat on his back in the hallway. Except the hallway was sloped, and he started sliding down it like a chute. Thelma let out a yell before leaping onto the squid's back, wrapping her arms around its head and coils. There was another zap, and the scent of ozone filled the air. Thelma was launched against the cell's wall. There was a solid thump as she impacted the calcanth, but the exosuit generated a shield which stopped the back of her head from smacking against the metal wall. But still, Thelma slid down, stunned for a moment, and Koth was still sliding. But he was actually going in the same direction as the squid. It shot out of the cell and raced down the hallway. It levitated over him and continued to the far end of the hallway. Yeah, it's awkward. Anyway, the Osiris turned on as it moved. Lights that had been dormant blazed to life, blinding Koth. Doors that had been sealed opened as the squids approached. A thrum went through the entire ship. The Osiris was coming back to life. Koth jammed his feet against the walls and turned on the magnetic locks. He jerked to a halt just as a squid flew over him. He grabbed hold of those coils that were not wrapped around Jace's body. For a moment, he stopped its forward momentum. "Argh!" Koth cried as he strove to keep the squid in place. But there was another zap, and his suit's magnetic locks failed. He was now flying along with the squid. He wrapped his right arm around the coils as he reached out with his left hand for something to hold on to. But the walls were smooth. Even the thresholds gave him no chance to curl his fingers into the insets and gain some purchase. The squid headed for a lift that throbbed to life. The doors smoothly slipped open, and the light seemed to explode around them. The three of them were inside of the car, and it was rocketing upwards before Khoth could get his feet beneath him. Khoth jumped up and spun around so that he was facing the squid. The steaming hundreds of tendrils curled around Jace in what seemed a protective stance. Other tendrils were suddenly lifted up and facing towards him. Spikes and claws, all dripping with neurotoxins, were aimed towards him. His exosuit would block many of them, but not all. There were simply too many. The space was too small. He had nowhere to go. If the squid wanted him to die, he would. What if this isn't the enemy? Gehenna was supposed to be in that cell. Gehenna wants to save Jace. Maybe that's who this is. Maybe she's just trying to save Jace. Gehenna, Khoth asked, his voice breathless, even as he was up on the balls of his feet and swaying from side to side. The squid's translucent head flashed with yellow lights. His exosuit system fuzzed. He frowned. I cannot understand you, Khoth said. He could see Jace's body among the curling coils. Jace is very ill. Jace might be dead. His Z hurt to even think that. There were more flashing lights, deep blues that were almost black, greens the color of Hassian forest, yellows like the morning sun. Are you trying to help Jace? He asked. Because I am trying to do so. I need to restart his heart. I need to get him breathing. Damage is occurring that cannot be undone. There were suddenly two straight lines that appeared on the squid's face. The red line showed an erratic rhythm. Heartbeat. That is Jace's heartbeat. It's beating. The blue line was more of a sine wave. Breathing. So you've got his heart back, and his breathing relatively stable. We need to get him. There were more frantic flashes of lights. His exosuit suddenly buzzed. He lifted up his right forearm, and instead of his own vitals, there were words written in Thafal. Must get Jace to core. He frowned. Core? You mean the Osiris's core? Yes. Gehenna, is that you? Yes. Nice to meet you, Commander Khoth Voor. Help me? Khoth's face dropped to Jace. Can you save him? Yes. I do this for both of us. There was a pause, and then Gehenna told him, We will have company when the elevator doors open. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Khoth spun towards the doors as they silently whispered open. They had reached a level where the humans had breached. Khoth was staring into the eyes of 3 soldiers who were staring at the lift as if they were possessed. They hesitated before lifting their weapons. Khoth went for the one to the left. He lunged forward and hit the human soldier on the back of his neck. The soldier went down unconscious, as if all the sand had been released from his body. The other 2 were hit with electric zaps. Their bodies arched before they too fell unconscious in heaps on the floor. Gehenna floated ahead of him with Jace's unconscious body in her coils. Khoth followed closely after her down the hallways that now flared with the Osiris's own lights rather than the human-strung lights. They met soldiers and scientists around every corner. The scientists ran. The soldiers didn't have a chance to even reach for their weapons before either Khoth had downed them or Gehenna had. He noticed, though, that her energy was flagging. She levitated lower to the ground, and the last few soldiers that she attempted to zap caused them only to jerk back, confused. Khoth had to go in and slammed heads against walls, cracked skull-togethers, and kicked legs out from underneath them before they went down. Final hallway. There, Gehenna told him. At the end of the hallway was another door. There were boxes in front of it. There was a door that the humans had given up on trying to open, but it opened now. The boxes toppled. Gehenna glided over them while Khoth cleared them with a jump. Just as he entered the room beyond, someone called his name. Khoth! Commander Diane Parker called. He knew it was her the moment he turned his head and looked back. She and Jace had the same cheekbones. Her face was stricken. Commander Khoth, please let my son go. She was surrounded by soldiers. They all had their guns out, pointed at him and Gehenna. Just as the doors were sliding shut, Khoth said, We cannot. We are saving him. Okay. So that is the end of... Oh my god. That's the end of chapter 10. Sophie says, as of chapter 10, number of chapters without Jace in Khoth's arms, 5. Number of chapters with Jace in Khoth's arms, 5. It's even. For now. I know, seriously. Hannah says, a giant space squid. Woohoo! I know, seriously. I was definitely influenced by the squiddies in The Matrix and also Aliens. Yeah, Tara says, Matrix squidly. Yes, there they are. Kelly says, spoilers! Yes, I know. Shayla says, I can actually vividly can visualize a 10 by 10 room as I work at a storage facility, and we have quite a few free that size. Yes, yes, I know. Mew Mew, you're not going outside. Stop scratching at the window. Okay. Hannah says, I don't think I've spoiled anything. The answer's in the description. Yes, that's true. She didn't. Believe me, and I already spoiled everything at all altogether. Matt says, oh, I have. I watched it live. Actually, most of the Zhanzi fantasy series from China are originally boy love, changed to bromance. You have to read the novels to really know the relationships. I've been taking Mandarin lessons so I can read the novels and watch the series without the sub issue. Wow, I didn't know that. And since I took like 10 years of Spanish and can basically say hola, I am impressed that you would do Mandarin to read something you love. Matt says, actually, Sophie, I've watched Untamed live. Okay, I think that was just, I just repeated that. Tara says, love it. Matt says, I love that scene. Oh, I'm so glad, you guys. I'm so glad. Thank you so much. Um, I love this series. Is just really, firing on all cylinders. We're cooking with gas, baby. So that's, which is really good, which I'm very happy about. Um, so sweet, sweet, sweet. Just to give you guys a heads up, there will not be another live reading until June 6th. Like I said, I'm trying to give myself a day off here or there. And also, we don't have enough chapters to read. So it's going to be basically, every Saturday there will be something to listen to. Two of those days will be Dragon's Reign, the podcast, and then the other two will be my live readings. So I believe June 6th is the next date. I will keep you up to date. We will have everything up so you know. I so appreciate you guys doing this with me. It's just wonderful. It's just, seriously, it makes my day. It's such a lot of fun. And I hope you enjoyed the 2 chapters today. So thank you guys so much. I'm going to let you go. We've been on for about 2 hours now, and my voice is crashing. It's so badly crashing. But I love you all. Stay safe, but have some fun. Drink a drink for me. And we will talk very, very soon. Bye, guys.